You ready?
Yep.
Yep, rightio. 3, 2, 1, go. I don't know what it is about this movie in particular. Um, I'm a big believer in the location of any plot should also play a character, and I think the Civic Center, I think it is, that this is set in, does a very good job of that with the different, the commentator box and all of that. It's a very real world presence. And I love
Yeah,
that about this movie.
the hockey stadium.
Mm.
I actually watched a NHL game earlier in the week to do a bit of homework. I watched the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the New Jersey Devils. They've got the playoffs coming up soon. I tried to get into ice hockey a couple of years ago. It didn't really take, but you can get all the big American sports on KO, so I thought I'd give it a watch, the replay.
Yeah, I think I should do a disclaimer here straight away, and that is I've got no fucking idea at all. I can't tell one end of a hockey stick from the other. But the good news about this film is that you don't need to.
Yeah, just admire their skill and athleticism. I think someone described it once. Like, imagine doing your job on ice. Like, the fact that they have these incredible skills while skating on ice. I really enjoyed watching it. And what's interesting about this movie is it's like they are real teams. There's a movie called Any Given Sunday, which is about American football, and they had to invent all the teams for use in their movie. I'm not sure if they had permission from the NFL to use any teams, but there is such a team as the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Blackhawks. So I thought that was interesting, and they do compete for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I think it's the Chicago Blackhawks, isn't it?
They do compete for the Stanley Cup, and they have the playoffs, and so it's really interesting. They had permission, although I believe I read somewhere, it just occurred to me, one of the producers or executive producers was a co-owner of one of these teams, so maybe that.
I think it might have been the Penguins. I think because this is, I believe, with the Pittsburgh Penguins, their mascot Iceberg, who Van Damme has a fight with later in the film. This was basically the kind of public reveal of the character when they settled on a design. So it wouldn't surprise me if the producer was a co-owner of the Penguins, because the stadium in question, I believe, is their home ground.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to say one thing about this intro is a glorious one-take shot there, eh? Like, from the moment the credits fade in, from the street inwards coming down the ladder, was all in one shot. Long before things like Spectre were doing it, Sudden Death beat him to the punch 20 years earlier with a nice one-track shot to open the film.
Yeah, it's quite intense, this opening.
Yeah, and it's I was thinking about this when I revisited the film earlier, and it's a very interesting opening for the character of Darren McCord, because you can't help but shake the feeling that the follow-up to this, when he picks up the kids from the new husband or whatever, like this 2 years later, like you could take that out and just have the credits fade into game day. So it was interesting how they decided to keep that there and not just have the movie start with the 4-hour countdown.
Yeah.
I suppose before everything goes to complete hell, you want to... Not that it was a jolly moment that we're introducing him in.
Yeah. Dorian Harewood is Agent Hallmark.
he gets around a bit, this bloke, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was reading a little bit about him earlier in the week. Apparently, he was the voice of the Shredder in the original Ninja Turtles cartoon.
Yeah,
and he voiced the character for 7 or 8 seasons. So I never knew that.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. He's done a fair bit of voice stuff.
Yeah, I like the joke on his name a little bit later, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So, Peter Hyams directed this, and the 1990s, I really enjoyed his body of work. He directed Van Damme earlier in Time Cop, and he was in a movie that keeps sneaking its way into these discussions, The Relic with Tom Sizemore, and he also did an Arnie movie I'm really a fan of End of Days to finish off the decade. So they're really good, solid films there, I think.
Well, it's refreshing to have a director have 10 years on the job and not turn out a turd. I suppose, depending on your mileage with each of these films. Time Cop, just real quick, didn't that open up the decade? Wasn't that a solid 1990 film?
No, I think it was a couple of years later, yeah. So
Or it might have been something like 90s. It might have even been after this one. Um,
No, yeah, he was quite prolific in the 90s. Van Damme, heading into the 90s, was in slightly better shape than guys like Stallone and Lundgren. He he did Death Warrant, which is around 1991, and although I believe Time Cop and Street Fighter came out in the same year,
94,
and
yeah.
Sudden Death, I believe, is 1995.
Oh, so it was
So
ahead, but not by
he was
much.
kind of, yeah. Whereas Stallone sort of had a couple of flops coming into this decade, although he'd get back into form with Cliffhanger and Demolition Man, but Van Damme was this was his apex. After this, it kind of went downhill for him in terms of his box office pull. He sort of made the transition after this in the late 90s into more direct-to-video fare.
But he wouldn't be the first one to do that. I think the gold standard for one of these action, stars to kind of delve into that head first would have been Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Seagal, yeah, he was struggling as well by the mid-90s because he'd done On Deadly Ground, which was a notorious flop. He kind of bounced back a little bit, I believe. He was in a movie called Exit Wounds, which got a little bit of buzz, but yeah, they really struggled with the transition because audience taste was shifting. By this time, you had guys like Mel Gibson and Harrison Ford, who had established himself in the action genre, and they weren't sort of muscle-bound. You had guys like Keanu Reeves, and even Nick Cage in the 90s reinvented himself as an action hero. So these guys were sort of muscling in on their turf, whereas having a big set of muscles just wasn't cutting it anymore with, special effects. And guys like Mel Gibson, they could act a bit. Although I think a lot of these guys do get unfairly maligned. I think Van Damme gives a really good performance in this. I agree. He's terrible in absolutely everything. He's good in this. He's very solid.
Yeah, I agree as well, and I think it was interesting. What I love the most about his role of Darren in this film is, he's just a regular firefighter. He's not a kickboxer, ex-CIA Unisol or anything like that. He's literally just the guy who fights fires and tries his best to save lives. So his role in this doesn't make much sense for him to pull off a lot of spin kicks in this, and even in the fights that he's in this film, he doesn't really show off the martial arts prowess because the role that he's playing doesn't demand it of him this time around.
Yeah. Well, it's a riff on the Die Hard formula. It's just a regular guy in an intense situation. Although I was reading very funnily when he was doing some press and promotion for this. It's like Die Hard, he confesses, but it's better. Go Jean-Claude.
I'm going to agree. I think I think Powers Boothe. I'm not knocking Alan Rickman, but I think Powers Boothe is CIA Joshua Foss in this. We just got our first glimpse of him just then. I think he is an incredibly commanding presence in any antagonistic role that he's in, like Curly Bill and all that kind of thing. He was in a good one. The name escapes me at the moment, with Bill Paxton, and it was about these Christianity killings and stuff like that. He was a detective in that.
Okay.
He just commands such presence, and I think it's the voice that does it. With him,
he's quite good. He sadly passed away in 2017. But yeah, Curly Bill in Tombstone. He was in Red Dawn as well with Patrick Swayze.
Yeah,
he plays the older soldier. I think they encounter in the forest, and I really enjoyed him as he's done some voice work as well. He was the voice of Gorilla Grodd in the Bruce Timm DC animated universe shows from the early 2000s, where I think and it's quite a substantial role because Grodd assembles the Legion of Doom, and he's their sort of overlord, and it was quite a good season. I
I'm glad.
enjoyed
I'm glad that they got Powers Booth to do the voice of Gorilla Grodd, and it wasn't just a villain of the week crap episode. They actually got their mileage out of him. You can't have a voice
Yeah,
like that going to waste.
yeah, I know. And plus, I'm biased because I love Grodd as a villain. I think he's amazing, so I'm incredibly biased.
Now, I'm
um,
not too sure. We'll get reminded by the end of this film. This Protter here, I don't believe this guy ever gets his comeuppance in the entire film, although I could be mistaken as we go over it. But I don't remember a time where he gets whacked, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that. Maybe someone can
yeah,
correct me on that, but I don't remember him in particular getting his due. Possible
yeah, I
sequel.
think, yeah. Well, I think you're right. I don't recall. I watched it earlier in the week. I don't think he comes back again after
He
killing the
shoots
old
he
lady.
shoots the chopper out of the sky. How did he get to the stadium? Don't know, but you're not supposed to ask questions like that. Um, but yeah, I don't believe he ever. The answer to him never happens. I do like this intro. Like this goes as far as the roadworks. For God's sake, like this is incredibly methodical. This, whereas
Yeah,
you can't help but
they've
think someone would just plug a laptop into an ATM and all of the hard work for the villain is done.
yeah they've really done their prep for this, haven't they? Um, we forgot to mention Raymond J. Barry is the vice president in this. What a legend!
Who I reckon his ultimate role ever, although it's difficult just to pick one. I give it to the ref when he's playing the police chief in that in
Yeah,
1994
yeah,
with Dennis Leary and Kevin
yeah.
Spacey.
He's
He
great.
is one funny bastard in that movie.
Yeah. I think as well he's in a really funny scene in the uh, Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee, and I think Powers Booth's in that as well.
Yeah, he
I think
is.
how the earpiece breaks down. He's meant to say nice doing business with you, and then they'll help him, and he keeps saying it, and no one shows up.
Yeah, I always like this. We're gonna fuck them up.
Yeah,
I do this to my nephews all the time, just as a bit of a joke whenever there's a state of origin on. I do like this kind of thing going on here. Um, like it's interesting that they give so many kind of different lanes to Van Damme. Like this is him with his son here, and oh well, he was semi-pro in Canada and all of that. Like
yeah,
it's like we've got a couple of things about his character now, which you know, there's a very intuitive sense to it. The things that he does over the course of the film, you can understand why he would be doing things like that.
yeah. And they do something similar in Death Warrant to explain his accent. He's from Quebec in Canada, whereas in real life he's Belgium, I think. Is he from the muscles from
Brussels, isn't it?
Brussels?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Brussels.
which is in Belgium, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, icy. Although it says iceberg on the jersey, maybe they couldn't say the name just yet. Um, Now, I thought this was pretty clever, but I'm not American, so please forgive me that, you know, iceberg, but the berg is spelt as in Pittsburgh. I think that's really cool naming
Yeah,
convention for the penguin.
yeah, Pittsburgh.
um, yeah, and it's yeah, like that. Just I'm going back to Van Damme real quick, and that is like when he's doing his rounds, trying to minimize structural damage. Like you just saw him in the intro with the little girl in a collapsing building. He has a chat to his son, not too far from now. That Hallmark, you know, says he's a good guesser. You know, when it comes to the points that he's marked out on the blueprint. Well, being a firefighter, it's not like he's just given plot armor, I think they call it today, and he knows where to go to stop the bad guys. No, no, no. His career is this, so he would have a good sense of thumb of knowing what to look for to bring a building down.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by firefighters and how they go about their business. Just such highly dangerous work. I was reading a book. It wasn't about firefighting specifically, but there was a chapter where there was an interview with a former one, and just all these techniques and training that they do. And he told a fascinating story about, like, with fires in homes and that, like, he would sometimes leave a patch of skin uncovered, so you can tell how hot the room is getting. And when it's like, if it gets hot enough, you obviously have to leave. And
I suppose
like,
in a
just the
suit
way-
when it's insulated, it'd be hard to tell that, wouldn't it?
yeah, they need to be paying really close attention to the temperature. And I just found it so fascinating, and how like how it reacts to oxygen. So not opening doors the whole way, because a sudden influx of oxygen will cause the flames to rear up. But
Yeah, it's like if you keep a room sealed, like completely sealed, a fire dies because it needs oxygen to thrive.
Yeah, I was just absorbed in it. It was such a fascinating interview. And yeah, from that point on, I've just always kind of been interested in how they go about the work.
And like not only that, they would also know, like when a building is too far gone and the main objective is to save lives. Like when a building has been burnt to that point, it's a condemned building now, which again is something that they kind of channel into the character of Darren McCord through this film. Is that, you know, if you want to make a building structurally unsound and bring it down, a couple of bombs here, and here will do the trick.
Yeah. Is Raymond J. Barry still with us? I hope he is.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I often confuse him with James Reborn. I believe James Reborn has passed away.
Yeah, that's a shame. He was great as well. Because I'm trying to think of the last thing Raymond J. Barry I saw in. But yeah, like you mentioned, the ref and
That's the
he's got
big
a
one
very-
for me. He's
Yeah.
like he's only in the
It's
film
the
for like
show.
2 scenes, but he is so good in those 2 scenes.
Yeah, it's quality, not quantity.
Bob, I nailed your wife, which I keep in my back pocket from time to time. And I love how there's a moment here with Powers Booth that I really enjoy when he does the hand on chest with the national anthem.
Yeah.
Like he takes that one moment, you know, before he starts having his fun, and he just loves being a villain so much in this film. Like not just Powers Booth as an actor, but the character of Joshua Foss just loves being this kind of villain.
Yeah, I'd still probably have to give it to Hans though, but because I think, yeah, I think Hans has probably a higher batting average. Some of Powers Booth's lines are good, but he's just a bit too bloodthirsty.
Yeah, I think what hurts him here is that he doesn't have an Ellis. He doesn't have
Yeah.
a moment where you get a bit of levity out of the villain. You get a lot of black comedy moments, like the scenes that he has with Emily in this, but he doesn't have a moment with another douchebag like Ellis where you're glad that he kills someone. You don't get a moment like that with Foss in this, and I think you're right. He does miss a step there.
Yeah, because some of these lines are quite amusing, but others, yeah, and plus he doesn't have, like, some of the other thugs aren't really fleshed out. Like, you know, Hans also had Carl, who's on his own little arc during Die Hard.
And Carl outlives him, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, it was a funny thing. The writers of the Last Action Hero were saying, so what's the best trope? Do you save the main villain till last, or does the second in command, do you kill him last?
Yeah, it's like it would be like in the Nemesis Part 2 when Optimus Primal says "Let's go home," and you see Megatron on the back, and then you see Tarantulas' fucking silhouette in the cargo hold, and Tarantulas takes over everything. Like he somehow survived. Yeah, you got to keep the number 2 guy. I think is the and Scream 2 did that as well. Literally the year after this, or a couple years after it. And with Mickey, Timothy Olyphant outlives Mrs. Loomis.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not entirely unheard. Actually, it was pretty common in the 90s to be doing that. I know Die Hard's not a 90s movie, but it might as well be. What with 88? Like it might as well be a 90s movie. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, most of the clones popped up in all were like the 90s are littered with Die Hard riffs. I mean,
Oh, well,
you had
yeah. Well, I think yeah. Go on.
Under Siege, Passenger 57.
Well,
Slightly
Speed is a Die Hard knockoff. You know, it's Die Hard meets Rush Hour, isn't it? Isn't that how it was marketed? Yeah.
Yeah, there was an underrated one. Louis Gossett Jr. passed away last week. It's there's a movie called Toy Soldiers. It's Die Hard in a school with a very young Sean Astin. I've been meaning to
Oh
sort of
yeah,
dig.
I remember that one. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I remember really liking it. In honor of Lou Gossett Jr., I tried to dig it up and watch it again, but I haven't really had time because I do remember thinking it was really good.
I love how
How
he takes
they,
this random thug takes the time to reel the body away behind the seats in the dome. I thought that was really cool.
yeah,
Just taking no chances. Oh, but I think out of the rise of the Die Hard clones and all that kind of stuff, I think this one, this and Speed are probably the only two, um, that like I judge a Die Hard clone based on, does it have a setting that's prominent for most of the film? This obviously has one with the Civic Center. Speed obviously has one with the bus itself. Even though there's moments where it's shot away from it, but the main crux of it all takes place on that bus. So those two are Die Hard clones. I know some people count Cliffhanger as one. I don't. Mainly because of that one distinction, is that like, I know it's set in a giant mountain range and all this kind of jazz, but it doesn't have that kind of claustrophobic, locked in door feeling. Like, it has the
yeah,
complete opposite. It's a mountain range. It's wide and open, and helicopters flying around. Like, I don't count Cliffhanger as a clone of Die Hard. Sorry, people.
yeah. I can see the case both ways. Instinctively, I tend to agree with you, but there are some sort of Die Hard tropes in it. But it is a very unlikely one if it is classified as one. Because
Yeah.
because Gabe can just run away at any time, and I think but there's some things a lot of them overlook. Although this is a film that does get it right, like by all rights, Die Hard should have ended after Act One, where he summoned the police. Welcome to the party, pal. But he then realizes the police are incompetent. Like Pal's fine, but the rest of them are just getting in each other's way. So like John's McClane's plan was just to hold up now, let the cops do their thing, but he realizes they're incompetent. So he's got to keep getting involved. And
Well,
McCord in
yeah.
this film is like that because it transpires that Hallmark's in on it. So he's deliberately sort of stonewalling attempts to get the situation under
Well,
control. But that's
not
what,
to mention that, but Hallmark, though, whilst not incompetent, is Secret Service, so he's kind of got like this outranking that random street cops aren't going to help anyway, even if he did manage to contact them. And like the phone
yeah,
that McCord picks up, I believe it dies on him just before the Hallmark reveal, actually. And you got to remember, Foss here was CIA as well. I believe the conversation happens when Raymond J. Barry fled. I believe the vice president goes unnamed in the entire film. It's just called the VP. Um,
Yeah, okay.
I'm not too sure if they ever say Raymond J. Barry, if his character does have a name. I'm pretty sure it's just the VP, but he does. You do get a lot of the Joshua background from him and their exchanges that they keep having inside of the commentary box.
yeah.
So again, getting the call to random police and all this kind of stuff. Well, if it goes as high as the CIA, who the fuck you gonna call?
Yeah.
Like, Ghostbusters. Like, yeah. I love these overshots of it all the time whenever it cuts outside. Especially when you keep getting the jump shots back to Hallmark, being on the outside looking in. Like, I love keeping the audience locked in movies like this. It's so cool when they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to a fight and a game of hockey broke out, which is
Yeah,
one of your
stop me
favourite ones.
yeah, stop me if you've heard this one. Yeah, I was thinking of that joke the other day. Yeah, there's been some dust ups in ice hockey, and they like a couple of years ago when I was trying to get into it. Yeah, it's mainly the Canadian teams. I was sort of like, there's some angry men up there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like that. It's like the
kinda
locker
short
room.
this.
It's like the locker room scene. I'll show you the difference between the game you played and the one I play. Missing front teeth. I can see the difference.
Yeah, the Maple Leafs.
I do love this ongoing sign language thing here because you get the sense that the tee up is for a later moment with Emily, but the tee up is actually for the son Tyler instead.
Yeah.
Who thinks it's dumb, but Darren does the sign thing on the ice. And I thought it was a pretty cool moment. It's one of those kind of crisscross setup moments, isn't it? Like, you think you got the B-side worked out. Oh, well, he's going to do it to her later on, but no, he does it to him later on.
Yeah, it's probably the best moment in the film when it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think we all have moments like that. I'll remember that when that scene comes up, because I'll probably go into that quite a bit. I remember a lot of people saying they don't like the film because it was a little bit cheesy. That, of course, the game goes into overtime with sudden death. Guys, the film's called fucking Sudden Death. Like, at some point, it's got to do what's written on the box, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like
if
it.
It was literally called that. It's not sudden death. It's fucking sudden death.
Yeah, yeah, fucking sudden death. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this movie is no stranger to a couple of F-bombs getting out. Like, strategy. They fucked up. I mean, I saved that one quite a bit.
Yeah, I liked his line as well. I had an idea. I had this idea.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm like in an eBay auction. We're going to make it work or we're going to die trying. Yeah, and I love I just love smoking inside of a formal setting like that. Fuck yeah. Just light it up, mate.
Well, it's the 1990s. Everyone smoked.
Yeah,
back then.
everyone smoked, you know. Love a dart. Yeah, you gotta have the flat. I love the bow tie. None of this tie shit. You know, like on Powers Booth. Like, I miss the bow tie. Bring the bow tie back. I'm so sick and tired of black tie affairs. So basically, it comes down to it's a which you know, coincidentally the same year as GoldenEye. It basically pinches the plot of this. You know, like cyber tracking transactions and all of that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, the internet was, you know, really a thing by then, and was coming more and more involved in people's lives. It's quite an interesting time looking back on this with how 1990s movies treated all these cyber elements.
Well, it's not just how the 1990s were kind of going into cyber elements and cyber terrorism and stuff like that. It's also pretty frightening how accurate some of them got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a few. I don't think Hans ever had a smug moment, did he? Like, I mean, I suppose he had a few beats where you could interpret it like
Hans,
that, but Foss just loves talking shit.
Yeah, Hans. Yeah, I get what he's doing here, but yeah, Hans just had that. Yeah, Alan Rickman. He was never. You knew he meant business, and obviously this guy does as well. But there's just a couple of things in a couple of scenes where I think he overcooks it. Whereas, like, Hans shot people. He shot Ellis, and he shot Takagi.
Yeah, like Foss kills like 3 people in one scene.
Yeah.
You know, like he shoots, and then he wounds one. He puts the officer down, shoots the officer in the head when the comrade was like, he needs medical attention. Bang, not anymore. Kills the chef. Oh, look, the wife was recently deceased. Then he pops someone else in the head, and that was like all in 5 seconds. Like, all right, we get it. We got to have a bigger dick.
Yeah, and that's probably, you know, the whole impetus behind it. But Hans would do all of that, and like that he'd start talking shit about models, and he's like do 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 do, and it shouldn't work. But Alan Rickman is so brilliant, no one complains about it. He's like, it's one of the best performances by a villain ever.
I just want to say that Dorian Harewood quote just before there, I love it. Like when he goes, I know we've had some screw up in my time at the bureau, but how the fuck did we lose the vice president? I love when characters have internal self-reflection, but they verbalize it to people who don't matter. I love when movies do that. They don't do it enough.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm going to advocate for that. I want films to start doing that again when a character has a moment of self-reflection and just slams everyone the NPCs, if you will, of the film.
Yeah.
So I don't believe we're at the first quarter yet, are we? Of the game? Yeah. So there's 3 periods to a hockey game. How does that work? Like we have halftime and full time with our NRL and all of that. How long is a period in hockey? Do you know?
It's 20 minutes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah. So you add up to an hour with all 3 of them.
Yeah, and I think the AFL in our country has quarters. There's 4 quarters of 20 minutes. And yeah, in the NRL, there's 2 halves of 40 minutes with a 10-minute break in between.
Yeah. All right. Like I wonder what all this stuff is connected to. It's not like you're hotspotting to a mobile phone now, are you? Like yeah.
It's the magic of the movies.
Yeah, exactly. You're not supposed to be yeah, you're not supposed to be asking those questions. I do like that kind of line there and the way that woman sells that. We can all agree the mayor's wife has been the most annoying because he did make that quote earlier going, I'm not too sure if I like you, but when I make up my mind you'll be the first to find out.
Yeah, and he told her to stop crying a couple of times earlier as well. Yeah, and I did like that line. That's a good line. But can we all agree the mayor's wife is most annoying?
Yeah. Yeah, and like there's a few beats there where like he obviously enjoys like kind of like he likes to enjoy those kind of finer things, kind of comforts. Like you see him smoking, you see him having glasses of wine, you see him eating a shrimp cocktail later as well.
Yeah.
In the film, like he's a very cultivated kind of individual. Like I know it's like the most uninspired thing ever for a villain to have great taste in their alcohol and their tobacco and their type of food and all that kind of stuff, but I just love how he's doing it. And like when he's eating the shrimp cocktail, he's berating Hallmark after a chopper just got shot out of the sky and no one inside is the wiser to what's going on. I just love that so much. So I think so that's the henchwoman wearing the costume now.
Yeah. And the real one's been stuffed into a toilet stall.
Yeah, so she was killed off screen.
Yeah.
Was that one? Yeah, I was trying to keep an eye out for
Although,
that.
no, that's not true. I believe McCord finds the body of the original one in that office.
But doesn't a body spill out of one of the bathroom stalls here? Like, I get a bit confused about what happens here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. This thing used to scare the shit out of me. Or maybe it just killed someone that was... Oh no, it's wearing a fucking apron. Her, I should say. Yeah, this thing... Being a kid when I first watched this film, this penguin scared the shit out of me. And when people ask me why, when I had that conversation today, I'm like, well, when things like Scream were happening around this era... and you're a kid and all of that, and a child on the film is being chased by this penguin that just killed someone. Yeah, it's pretty easy to understand why a kid would be pretty scared of it. But since then, I've kind of conquered that fear, and I absolutely love this. I think the penguin fight is the best fight in Van Damme's filmography. Like, I know it doesn't show off his martial arts prowess and all of that, but I just think like an industrial kitchen is a very dangerous place to be fucking around. It's like a wood shop, and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, well, it's the most memorable scene in the whole movie. You think of this movie, the fight with the penguin is probably your next second thought. It really does stand out in Van Damme's career, the fight with the penguin.
Yeah, and I think it's mostly because of the location. Like, you know, like there's deep fryers going, there's meat grinders going, there's like all sorts of things that can cause you real nasty harm, like chemical spills, and like an industrial kitchen, you know, fucking hell, man. Like, you know, to get it on with a penguin, that just adds to the absurdity of the moment even more. But
Yeah.
And I also think the fact that it's a woman as well also makes it a lot more memorable than just some random guy that would one-up him in a fight. Like, I think it being a woman in the suit is definitely another reason why people enjoy it the way that they do.
Yeah, it's this whole sequence is really good. Chasing
It's really starting to
through the
kick off
valleys
now
like that.
that Darren now, like the McCords have finally been kind of sucked up into the weight of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fucking eyes on it, man. The penguin. Yeah, just awesome, awesome. Yeah, like everything a bit like a real world presence. I think they like to call it something that's really lived in, and you get that. I don't know if the center is still standing. Is it?
I'm not too sure actually. So is it?
Yeah,
the,
I don't know either. I think it's the Pittsburgh Civic Center is where this was filmed.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not too sure if
'Cause
it's
one
still
thing-
active or not.
Yeah, one thing I didn't catch is what home venue is it? Is it a Pittsburgh home game or a Chicago home game?
I'm certain it's a Pittsburgh one.
Yeah, okay.
I can't think of any movie in recent time that's flat out put a gun to a kid's head like that.
Yeah,
God.
different time back then. It's although this is still pretty intense. Like for even back then, yeah, it's quite yeah, I'm amazed at the shit they got away with back
Yeah,
then.
I know. It's really like looking back on it now, like especially when you look at movies through a today lens, like the gun's not loaded, and it makes a point of that to the audience before she actually does it. Still, nonetheless, oh my god, you know, and the fact that they're both in the scene together, you know, it wasn't some kind of editing trickery or anything like that. Like that actually happened.
Yeah.
I love the untied bow tie here as well. You get these kind of after a long day kind of moment with Foss. It's really cool. Like and later on, the jacket's off and the sleeves are rolled up. Like
Yeah.
every time it cuts back to him, he's getting more deformalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to loosen up the tie a little bit. Yeah, these doors, they only open one way, don't they?
Yeah, it looks like it from there. He's shit out of luck.
Yeah, so he's trapped in there. Oh yeah, that fucking penguin again. And and yes, someone was saying, what was it? Why doesn't McCord just use the elevator now after defeating the penguin? Well, the key gets dropped down the shaft,
Yeah.
and you need a key to fucking use it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
why
right.
it's why she took the body into the elevator with them. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and this whole thing is just brilliant, and like being a Van Damme thing, like you'd expect to see like a split kick somewhere in here, but there's like none of that because why would a firefighter be doing that? Not that they can't, but why would this one be doing that? There's a cool thing here where he tries to throw a couple of right hooks at the head, but because it's all plush, it doesn't do anything, so he can't take her out with a headshot.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah, I love leftovers and shit still running when everyone's gone home because the head chef earlier in the film just dismissed everyone. So,
Yeah.
you know, drop your things and go. So there's a lot of stuff that's left undone, like dishes still out and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think they're believers in clean as you go here.
I like
She's got the meat cleaver on him now.
yeah, the fucking meat cleaver. My favourite one was always the meat tenderizer when she picks that up and comes at him with that.
Yeah. That would fucking hurt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, getting clobbed in the head with one of those. Yeah, I love the deep fryer thing here. Oh, like, and it just... This is where it really... I'm not too sure what this was rated. Did this get the hard R when it first came out?
Yeah, I can't remember. Because I never saw it when it first came out. This was a movie they hammered a lot on pay TV around. So it came out in '95. I didn't see it until '97.
Yeah, alright, yeah.
When pay television took off here.
I
So
mean,
yeah, I'm not sure what was rated.
I know I should probably bring this up real quick. That wide shot when Van Damme does the jump when she goes to pick up the gun. I know this is something that turns a lot of people off from the film who have the eye for this sort of thing. The cuts to Van Damme's body double are pretty noticeable when you know what you're looking for in this film, and that was one of the more egregious ones where it wasn't really him.
Yeah, okay, I must have missed it. Yeah,
Yeah, I probably should have brought that up before, but that's the worst one of the bunch. Um, like not that, like I really notice these things when they happen, but people have made a mention that it does kind of put them off after a while. But then when you think about things like Die Hard and all of that, what stunts or anything like that did um, Bruce Willis do that would have required a body one? Like, it's kept pretty much in house. The only one I can think of is using the fire hose on the roof when he swings
yeah,
off of it. That's the only one that pops to mind.
Yeah, and another thing I think as well is just modern technology. Like these things probably stand out more with Blu-ray and 1080p and that sort of stuff. Whereas back in the day on video cassette or something, it probably wouldn't have been as noticeable.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that during their transition and their presses to a higher format and upscaling, some of them have been done pretty sloppily. Like one of the ones that people often cite is the 4K of Jurassic Park. Like you can see the strings on the Dilophosaurus. And
Yeah,
I heard some people making the case of, well, it depends on how sloppily the upgrade is done. Um, but I suppose if it's a completely different person than Van Damme that does the stunt, it doesn't matter how well and how high crafted the upgrade of like upscaling is. It's still not going to look like Van Damme. You'd basically have to completely CGI that footage to actually make it look like him, and it's just not worth it.
yeah. But some of them are just incredible. Like you can just reach through and it looks like it's just a real life picture. You can see all their skin blemishes and uneven skin tone, and they just look like all these like gorgeous movie stars just look like regular people, which they are.
Yeah,
um,
which they are, and like another good one. For me, I remember someone talking about this. Like the higher the quality press of the film that you're watching, you can very quickly tell who are the better makeup artists on these people because when things get like one of the ones that really stuck out to me was the Casino Royale
yeah,
4K of that. Like you could really see some dodgy work on the foundations on people's faces.
yeah,
um,
yeah, because it's like under the harsh light of modern technology, you know, things that are yeah, and that movie is relatively not that old, but even then, some of the limitations are coming out. But it's okay as you sort of get older. I overlook a lot of these things because it's just a movie, and
Yeah, I think,
I'm not.
and that's a lesson some people need to take back on board.
Yeah,
Like you
because
got to
they're
stop
not.
looking at this like it's real.
Yeah, because they're not mistakes. Like someone on Twitter tried to call out like the T2 jump off the drain. It's not Arnie. Like it's not a mistake. It's a stunt double.
Yeah,
Do you think they forgot to cast the wrong 200-pound Austrian?
yeah, and I think even Arnold has said that not with me on it. Because he
Yeah,
couldn't physically perform it, even if he wanted to. This is something that always kind of stuck out to me here. Like, who removed the body? I guess some cleanup crew came down when she never returned. Because
yeah,
Foss did ask for an update on a worried father. I love this fight here when Van Damme just grabs this guy. What the fuck is going on? Because he's just got attacked by a 7-foot penguin that had a
yeah,
silenced pistol. His daughter's missing, and then this dipshit pulls this on him. So I love how he needs to start getting some concrete info now to find out where we're going. And not to mention, like, what would have tipped this guy off before the Carla mention was no one would think someone made that up. Like, he's got, like, a broken nose and busted lip and, bruised up face and all of that. Yeah, he made up getting attacked.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And that's a good thing there as well. Like, they're not terrorists. Well, they're basically just thieves, aren't they? It's like a
yeah.
cyber heist.
Yeah, it's another riff on Die Hard as well. Yeah, they were just after money at the end of the day,
Yeah, the
as he
chicken
gets
bone's a pretty
attacked.
memorable death as well. Yeah, I mean, like the
Yeah,
industrial dishwasher strangling the penguin, like that's
yeah,
memorable. But the bone there, fucking hell.
yeah. There's a lot of memorable deaths in this.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, actually, pretty much all of them are memorable. That's one I definitely give to this over Die Hard. With Die Hard, you got a couple of quips, like the machine gun ho 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 and all that kind of jazz. But every single one of the bit players in this that get whacked all have awesome deaths, especially Hallmark.
Yeah, he's. I really enjoy him getting his comeuppance.
And I just want to point out there on the phone, when McCord's checking all the phones, you'll notice he still has Emily's stamp on his hand.
Yeah, it'll figure into the movie a bit later.
Yeah. I'm not too sure if Foss has got his yet. Yeah, the executive officers. This I like this kind of, like, again, that kind of lived in, yeah, so that was the original mascot.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, Joan, yeah, alright. Yeah, there was just that random, like, that always threw me for a loop, that. Because I thought she was the one in the bathroom stall. And all of the walkie-talkies that they're using, they can only be kept in-house, can't they? Because he uses a phone, I think, to call Hallmark.
Yeah, okay, yeah, they do have a certain radius. I'm not sure of the radius with some of these walkie-talkies. I use them at work now, making my rounds, but I'm not sure of the radius. They're pretty groovy to use.
Yeah. I do love this. Like, don't get me wrong, like, the no fucking shit lady, do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza line is awesome and all of that, but I still like this, if you fuck around and something happens to my kid.
Yeah.
I really like that one as well. They want money, a lot of it, give it to them. It's just brilliant, yeah. Yeah, all of the back and forth with Hallmark is awesome. You don't have to go out of your way to re-explain everything, but Hallmark, it's happening in this case, even though the audience knows what each of these characters do or do not know. This is happening because the payoff for this later is that Hallmark is in on it as well. So when he goes, assume that we don't, I've killed two of them as that contact, he's getting an update for Foss, is what he's doing. So the film's not wasting time re-explaining the previous events leading up to this to the audience. It's to set up the reveal that Hallmark is in league with Foss, is what it's doing.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Again, it's another Die Hard kind of thing, but I do like in Die Hard how there are 12 terrorists, and the movie constantly updates you on the count. Whereas after the explosion on the lower levels, he calls Pal and says, "I chalked up 2 more," and Pal is sticking up for him, saying he's John McClane. He's the reason you're dealing with 7 terrorists instead of 12.
Yeah, he's killed 4 of them. While everyone else is sticking around. Yeah. I love how just like a package from Carbombia just went off. I love this. I was gonna say this real quick. One thing I love the most about these 90s movies in particular, like I know a fair amount of 80s movies did it, but I think it was very much more prominent in the 90s decade. Like just the sheer harsh saturation of scenes, like the inside of Hallmark's command center, like just this harsh royal blue, this like lapis lazuli blue on everything that's inside. Like, why has it got that lighting? Like it's an ultraviolet light that's powering the van or something. Like the red light inside the chopper and Predator and all that stuff. Like the red light makes an appearance later in this film as well, when he's like around like the kind of industrial side of the complex. I love the single tone harsh lit environments of the era.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but yeah, times change and audience taste change. Like it's pretty incredible. The 1990s were full of that, and there was a huge appetite for them. And these weren't sort of pissy little direct-to-video films. Like these got huge releases, but times change and audience tastes change, and now movie cinematic sort of trips and movies are now very high budget special effects driven sort of franchise blockbusters.
Yeah.
But like the idea, like a movie, this wasn't overly successful, but like sort of films like Cliffhanger and Demolition Man and that were huge hits. But these days they would go directly to Netflix or a streamer. They like a studio now would not release it theatrically. I'm not even sure it would even get filmed by a studio. A streamer would pick it up. It'd be an original production.
Yeah,
It-
like yeah. Like the only way like Sudden Death would get a theatrical release in this day and age is if there was a fucking alien invasion in it. Like Foss
yeah,
was an alien or something. Like that's the only way it would get the backing to be released in cinemas is if it had something just so outrageous in it, or a fucking T-Rex comes out of the ice or something like that.
yeah.
It's not on
That's
the ice;
probably-
it's 2,000 feet below it.
Yeah, and I guess it's probably for you know, the audiences very rarely get it wrong. And well, the proof's in the pudding because this actually did get a sequel with Michael Jai White a couple of years ago, and it did really well for Netflix, which some of us sort of struggle to get our heads around. That kind of sequel to it's probably a forgotten sort of film in Van Damme's canon. Kickboxer and those things get more love, but a movie like a sequel 26 years later, like I was reading an article, it did huge numbers for Netflix when it first came out. I think it's called Escape to Sudden Death with Michael Jai White.
I think the title 2020 wasn't it? I think it was
Yes.
Welcome to Sudden Death. I think it might have been called.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's so I guess these things do find their platform and find their audience.
Yeah.
Because I was reading that there is a voracious appetite for the. I wouldn't classify these as B movies, but they probably would be these days. For audiences, really seem to gravitate toward them.
disaster films and hostage negotiation films that are slow burns. A lot of them didn't quite get their B movie list until things like what's that company called? Until things like Asylum, I think they're called, started making their fucking knockoffs of everything, and like shit like Sharknado started rocking up, and Sharktopus that are a dime a dozen. Like creature features were all over in the 90s. Like it didn't just start with Jaws. Like that went on and on and on. And survival situations like this, Die Hard, Cliffhanger, Speed, and like this, that, and the other. Like the whole premise of like a locked in high octane kind of adventure in one location, that in and of itself, looking back on it, is basically the template for B movies these days, because that's all the format's been treated as, unless again it had something outlandish in it, like a fucking alien invasion or something.
Yeah, you'd have to or you'd shoehorn it into an existing franchise. Although I haven't seen them. I'm told the Extraction films with, I'm not sure what Hemsworth brother it is, that are on one of these streamers. Like they're very much in the spirit of these 80s and 90s action movies. I'm told they're quite good, so I may have to dig them up and seek them out.
See, I've had a theory. I was talking to a mate of mine. I had a theory on why the John Wick movies kind of blew up the way that they did, because it kind of reinvigorated. I haven't seen any of them, but it kind of reinvigorated the whole action star setting thing, because your Arnold Schwarzeneggers and your Jean-Claude Van Dammes and your Stallones had pretty much faded out of the limelight for quite a while. So bringing someone back and doing like an action extravaganza on one man, and it does help that it's Keanu Reeves, I think is why that character is so well received the way that it is. Because take out the name John Wick and put Snake Plissken, like we had that a couple of decades prior, but because there was such a drought with this kind of format of storytelling and character, there was a wide open hole that just needed filling, and then along comes John Wick. There you go. Yeah. John Wick is the current action star to a lot of kids.
Yeah, John Wick. Yeah, I haven't seen them either. I should probably check them out as well.
Mm. Well, that's my theory at least, and each theory is as good as the next, I suppose.
Yeah, each day is better than the next.
Yeah, I love how all these bodies just kind of get... Like, how many people have they... These are all the people that have been trying to sneak in. I love how locked down it is, yeah. Yeah, the earpiece. Like, if you're supposed to be with the Secret Service, you don't tell anyone.
Yeah, that's another good line as well.
Yeah. Well, one of my favourite ones is I'm not too sure how long so we're almost at about the hour mark, and McCord and Foss have not actually interacted at all yet. I miss movies that did that. Like, we're slowly getting it kind of relayed. Like, Foss finds it out because Hallmark got the info for him, and
Yeah.
like, I love the long burn between our primary hero and our primary villain. They haven't actually interacted directly with each other at all yet, and we're about an hour into the film. I miss films that did that. Like, these days, it'd be the opening scene. They'd have some pissant fight, and it's dark, stormy, and at night, or something like that. And then, we'll spend 2 hours setting up potential sequels, and then we'll have another scrap.
Yeah. There's a lot of bloat in modern films now, but thankfully, being in the 90s, the running times are lean and mean.
Yeah, it's all right. So it's period 2, I think. As far as the in-game goes.
So in ice hockey, there's 3 periods of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's something American sports do. I don't know if all of them do it, but I sometimes wish we'd adopt it here. The clock only counts down when the puck is in play. So if the clock doesn't just keep ticking down, unlike NRL, where, like, if the ball is dead,
so the timer only happens as long as there's actual active game happening.
That's correct, yeah. If the puck's not in play...
Because you spend a good 5 minutes fucking around with a dickhead ref decision.
Yeah, it's interesting. I understand. Like, I'd like to see it because, if the game's close, it can sometimes come back to bite you if it's a tight game in our sports in Australia. But then if you stop it every time the ball's dead, it'd go all bloody night. So I'm sort of a bit torn. It's a good idea in theory, but Australians probably wouldn't cop it too much. But Americans sports, I think that's true in American football as well, where when the ball is not in play, because I watched a little bit of the Super Bowl, the dying stages, and like 2 minutes is like 20 in our time.
Yeah, it's probably a good rule to start adopting. But God knows how Australia handles its stadiums and all that kind of thing. Like who owns what, how much it is to rent one out, and all this kind of shit. I do love this now for my second selection, and he's like playfully waving the gun around. Like I always love that, because one thing that's always kind of bothered me about modern movies, and I know sometimes it's fun to do, you keep people morally ambiguous and all of that, but when it's your prime villain and your prime hero, like I want my villain to be a villain. Like when it's the main antagonist of the film, he shouldn't be asking himself, is this right or is that wrong? Maybe one of his underlings can do it. If Foss suddenly had an epiphany and decided to, you know what, you're right, you convinced me, I'm doing the wrong thing, I'd be pretty fucking annoyed. Just because it's an in-depth and all this kind of stuff doesn't actually mean it's good. I just want my villain to be a villain, and I want my hero to be a hero. And like, don't try this at home, and it's a lighter, and everyone freaks out around him, and the chuckle there, like, that's what I'm talking about. Only a real piece of shit would do that.
Yeah, something I noticed on a rewatch, he eventually shoots the mayor as well.
Alright.
Yeah, I believe he does, as a sort of blink and you missed it scene. He shoots the mayor eventually as well, although I'm not sure if it's at this point.
Yeah, and just another thing as well, when people like look back on film and they're like, especially with a modern day lens, they'll be criticizing this moment here, and they'll be like, well, how does McCord know how to defuse C4? Like, how would he know how to defuse plastic explosives? Well, it's like what we were saying earlier, being a firefighter, when a building is condemned and a lost cause, you got to bring it down. So, defusing a bomb, like, it's not outside of the realm of possibility. For this character to do that. Like, firefighters would know their way around dynamite.
Yeah, and a fire marshal, I'm guessing, would have at least some rudimentary knowledge of explosives.
Yeah, alright. Yeah, it just really baffles me. Like, a lot of people would criticize that, like, just as an example, they would criticize that, and they'll be like, because we didn't have a previous scene establishing that he could do that. What the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, the internet has made us all stupid. Unfortunately, yeah, there's no such thing as subtlety in films anymore. You got to spell it out for everyone.
Yeah, you got to have it on screen. We got to
Yeah,
dedicate screen time to McCord defusing a bomb prior to buy that he can
yeah.
defuse a bomb later in the film. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, and they
I'm
wonder
sadly,
what. Yeah,
I wish I was. I'm
and
not.
and they wonder why a lot of films come out today are so toned down to lowest common denominator because that's all you dickheads are asking for. Like, no wonder Hollywood's totally lost at sea going off of this kind of feedback. Someone brought up a good point. Like, imagine walking past the stadium and then seeing that bomb warning. Yeah, it's always a good treat. And more overshots of the dome and all of that.
Yeah, they're quite impressive, aren't they?
Yeah, now this is where they would walk in and be like, here's a couple of acres. It's probably the same set. Yeah, so I'm trying to work out, when does the phone call happen? When does he call? Because, yeah, like, I always thought about it, an hour is a good sweet spot between a villain and an antagonist and a protagonist finally having their first interaction. Like, I'm pretty sure Batman did it in '89. It was about an hour mark before they met.
Yeah, okay.
And, like, this whole area here, oh yeah, the makeshift blowpipe here, I really like this character beat, especially using a fire extinguisher to kick it off.
Oh yeah, it's like an air compressor or air canister or something.
Yeah, the blowpipe. And you get that quip later, how'd you kill that guy? Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind having a few little bits of levity in amongst a dire situation like this. And Van Damme has a couple of them here, although it's pretty much exclusive just to this portion of the film where he tries to bluff the villain and Hallmark. This is the most powerful explosive in the world. Yeah, he does it twice to them, and then he kills the guy with the blowpipe. Everybody's an expert. But then it goes back to having a much more, serious tone. Depending on your mileage of serious, I guess. Yeah, the stuffed penguin here always kind of threw me for a bit of a loop, but it was on the egg timer at the start of the film when Foss entered.
Yeah, it's how they smuggled the dynamite in, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And also, unlike Die Hard, where McClane was a off-duty cop at the time, well, from New York, for God's sake. Yeah, I love how this is literally what he signed up for, was dealing with these guys, and it just so happened to actually happen. So we were changing light bulbs at the start of the film, and now we're defusing bombs that are going to bring the building down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we mentioned this in our Kindergarten Cop one, that Arnold just kind of had good presence in the face for comedic moments. I also think Van Damme does it as well, but in a different way. Van Damme just kind of has that look that just kind of cracks me up from time to time, depending on the scene. Like, this beat coming up here with, "That's for doing your job half-assed," just the way that he delivers the line, not how he says it, but the way his face delivers it, I always crack up at that.
Yeah, he's got great charisma, Van Damme, and I think he, much like Arnold, he's naturally funny in reality as well, and also he's got just that 1 in a million accent as well. Arnie kind of explains a little bit about it. Like, some of the lines are probably not written to be funny, but it's the way he says it that makes it funny, and yeah, Van Damme just has that really distinctive accent as well, and he says just the randomest stuff. Like, I was reading an interview about him, and he was asked, "What kind of animal would you be?" He'd go, "I'd be an eagle, because they're free, They're up on top of a mountain. They've got their nest, their eggs, and their women. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's all you need. And I love this. I love this. Yeah, they got their eggs, their nest, and their women. Being an eagle.
Yeah.
Is that what being an eagle is all about?
Yeah, I'm thinking come again, but yeah, Van Damme is and yeah, and he had a because he kind of looked at Schwarzenegger and the success Schwarzenegger was having in the comedy genre and wanted a piece of it. I don't think he ever did an outright comedy, but he did guest star on Friends, where as himself he played himself in the show.
Yeah, all right.
And, yeah, tries to crack on to Monica and Rachel's, and that was fairly well received by all reports.
And I'm going to say this, like, I know they're not comedic moments, but he does have a lot of funny moments with me in the first two Universal Soldier movies. I'm a big fan of Universal Soldier: The Return, and he's got some, coincidentally, also starring Michael Jai White, who would go on to be in the belated sequel to this movie.
Yeah, it all comes around, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's full circle, you know? Yeah, he has a lot of beats in that just crack me up all the time in those, but we'll probably save those for the Universal Soldier chats because that's another, like, I mean, like, Arnold has Terminator, Sly has Rocky, Rambo. A lot of these big action stars, you know, have franchises that they've played a consecutive role a couple of times in, and with Van Damme it's Universal Soldier, it's Luke Devereaux, it's the franchise that he starred multiple times in.
Yeah, I love Universal Soldier: The Return. It does not deserve the hate it gets.
Yeah, I don't think, like, you know, it's like the worst thing ever invented. I'm like, it ruined the franchise. It was one fucking movie, mate. Like, the franchise, the fuck you talking about? Like, yeah, you know what? I don't like the Michael Jai White sudden death because it ruins the potential sequel that this set up.
Did you ever check out the second one?
Yeah, I did. I love the 3v1 fight because the coolest thing about Welcome to Sudden Death is that it's the textbook definition of it's the closest thing to a reality check that Hollywood has had in a very long time, and that is in the sense of movies are supposed to be fun, not serious and not realistic. That 3v1 fight, of course, it doesn't matter what kind of training you've got. If three guys jump you, you're gonna get fucked. Like, that's just how it is. It doesn't matter what kind of training you got. 3-5 guys jump you, you're going to get trounced. It's something that put me off the Roadhouse trailer when I saw what the drunk Dalton, Jake Gyllenhaal take out like 9 guys. I'm like, I don't really like them when they're like that. But the difference with Welcome to Sudden Death is you're not supposed to take that fight serious. That's why you're laughing when the whole fight's happening. Like the guy who gets thrown up on top of the locker and all of that, and then then his body just randomly falls off, and like the Carter, and then Michael Jai White just pats himself down.
Yeah, he does the Mr. Burns softball sort of.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to be taking this fight serious at all, and if you are, you're a retard. Like, cause it's just having fun.
I had to rewind that scene and watch it again. I had a ball with it.
Yeah, I pissed myself laughing watching that.
Yeah, when he throws him up out of the shot and he lands on the top in the background.
Yeah, and then when he shapes up to the last guy, he randomly rolls off and just falls away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's more of a remake than a sequel. I think it's a basketball game in that, not a hockey one. But it's the broad strokes are there. It's more of a remake of this film than what it is an actual sequel. Like, even sequel in name only, beat for beat is pretty much this film.
Yeah.
I highly recommend checking it out if you want a good hour and a half to just piss yourself laughing and not have any. Don't take yourself too serious with it. It's an awesome movie. I might watch it after this.
Yeah, Michael Jai White.
Yeah, I love the guy telling Hallmark to piss off here wearing the hat Puckhead.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Get out of here, Peckerhead. Yeah, there was a moment when Hallmark went to meet Foss, so we as an audience know that he's a double agent now. That moment with Foss, when he's like, "Oh yeah, he's got a kid, and I know where he's sitting. Bring him to me. I've always wanted a son." It's a weird quote to come from Foss. Like, well, having said that, he's had about 10 glasses of wine tonight, so I wouldn't expect him to be making too much sense moving forward. He's defusing your bombs. He's a good guesser. Like, he's found another one. I've guessed, like, what, 10 locations, I think he said. And, you know, well, those are the places where if you wanted to bring a building down, those were the ones that you take out. You'll notice, like, a lot of them are near, like running gas works and stuff like that. So it'll set chain reactions off.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people were going, when did McCord become savvy to the fact that Hallmark was a double agent? I think pulling a fucking gun on him might have tipped him off to some degree.
Hallmark as well had a great line earlier before he heads into the arena. If I don't make it back, tell my ex-wife she's lost her gravy train.
I love the lighter here. This was really cool. What are you gonna do? Drown me? No. And like, it's not like it turns like the arm of his jacket on fire. Like, what would happen? No, the whole fucking thing just goes up. I love it.
Yeah, Hallmark. Bye-bye.
Now, I can't remember the reason as to why he circles back. Doesn't he get cut off here? Like, there's guys coming or something, so he circles back? Yeah, that's right, yeah. And that's when Hallmark, you know, comes back for round 2. And again, like, a lot of people would look at that and go, yeah, well, realistically, using a water pistol as a flamethrower, look, let me just stop you there. Don't ever say realistically water pistol and flamethrower ever again in the same sentence.
Yeah, it's just a movie, folks.
I absolutely love that beat, because the setup for that was quite a while ago. So it's cool to, like, I love getting the A-sides and B-sides to things in film. It's always nice. These days you get a lot of A-sides, and a B-side is meant to be at a potential sequel that never happens because the A-side's all flopped.
Yeah.
You know, like, we gotta start, I think what it is we need to go back to making films that need to assume, even if it has a sequel greenlit, it needs to assume that it's never going to see a sequel. It's got to start answering and closing, like, stories off in its own runtime in under 2 hours. It's got to stop assuming a sequel's coming. Even if one is, it has got to stop making films in the sense of, oh, well, a sequel's coming. It's got to stop doing that.
Yeah, I think you sort of mean just they need to go back to making good, solid, standalone films.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's also really, yeah, it's a bit of a snake eating its tail. It's a bit of a catch-22 situation, because generally those movies don't do well anymore. They, you know, it's big, like, we keep going to see big franchise movies that are past their use-by date. So that's all that they're going to keep making. Like, original ideas generally don't, and there is some sort of market research that backs that up. Like, fans say they want that, but they generally don't put their hard-earned down for it. It's why I hope this new film about the devil can make a dent, because it seems like a really unique, interesting idea. It's gotten really good reviews. It hopefully it can sort of, you know, create a path for others to do that.
I still crack up real at this line here. The fucking never.
Yeah.
I still, like, when they're just kind of shit talking each other over the phone. Though one thing you made a mention earlier that he does kill the mayor. When she looks around the room and she says 12. And he takes the phone back. Isn't that sweet? She included me. Is he bluffing to throw him off with the numbers, or did you actually have an answer to that? Because I always thought he said she included me to fuck with him a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting line. Because I always kind of wondered if she included herself or not.
Yeah, I know. And those are the kind of things. I'm sure there's a comic book somewhere that explains it. No, I just thought it was a very interesting thing to have a conversation about. Yeah, I love this. So that's the first interaction between our two villains, and I'm a firm believer in, you can always tell how pissed off a man is based on how calm he is. And I think this moment here really sums it up, when he threatens Emily for like the 5th time. But the way that he does it, you know, like wine and cigarettes, that's been his whole thing for the whole night. He fucking hates how that phone call played out, because he couldn't use one of the bombs, even if he wanted to, now that this dickhead is running around giving him trouble.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the little girl's name is, but she's like just so good. Like it's hard for sort of child actors to really. I remember George R. Martin saying this, like for the first season of Game of Thrones, that the Stark children had to be young, and they screen tested. A lot of kids looked the part, but they couldn't act the part, and like and they're just so young back in that pilot. And geez, they did a good job, and so does this little girl. There's a lot of intense scenes, and fuck, she just brings the thunder, doesn't she? I'm not sure what her name is, or if she
yeah,
stayed in the industry or whatever.
It's Whitney something. It'll come to me. Whitney Wright, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I didn't catch her name in the credits. I'll have to have a look out for the closing credits. But yeah, it's a lot to put on this kid's shoulders. But yeah, gee, she does a good job in this.
And that's another big distinction between Foss and Hans, is that Hans doesn't know he's got familial collateral, whereas Foss pretty much knew that right from the get-go. Like, he knew Emily was McCord's daughter, like, right from the start, which is an advantage that Hans didn't quite click onto until a bit later.
Yeah, it's a great scene in that original Die Hard. He almost got it. He was like a heartbeat away from it, but yeah, I do remember that scene with the turned down frame. Hans looked back and forth. Something went on there, and for all his intelligence, he missed it. It's a really good moment.
Yeah, I'm like this whenever I have a sick day from work, and then I have a shower and I have a shave and I get ready for the next day. I always quote this coach here: "Feeling better? Then get the fuck in there."
Yeah, that coach is my spirit animal.
Yeah, what about when Van Damme goes and punches out the other side player? Tyler, what the fuck are you doing?
I think that guy speaks for a lot of us, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, the coach is, without a doubt, you know when films have that kind of supporting character, and he just steals the show. This coach is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, Travis from Cliffhanger.
Yeah, Travis.
Like we were separated at birth.
I love when Travis, just real quick on Travis, I love Travis with the airplane crash. Break my fucking neck! Yeah, Travis and this guy, buddy cop spin-off. Make it happen, someone. Fucking, that would be comedy gold.
Like they'd have a stroke at Act 1. They're so angry all the time.
Yeah, like it's funny. If you go to YouTube, just real quick on Travis, type in Cliffhanger Travis swearing, and someone's put together all of the times he says "God damn it" and all of the times he says "fuck." And it's like a 20-minute long video, which is like 15% of the runtime. Jesus.
Oh, that's so good.
I love skipping through. Just go for it, man. Because going through the crowd is the only way to stop complete panic, and complete panic is what he threatened Foss with.
Yeah, I love that bit, how he's crowd surfing through it.
Yeah, fuck this. And no one's the wiser. They're all focused on the game. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of Pittsburgh things all around the ring. I'm certain this is in Pittsburgh. Yeah, Pittsburgh Civic Arena. I'm certain of that. Yeah, and I love all these behinds and like the grime on the tiles and all of that like kind of shit. Just, oh fuck, I love this setting so much. Yeah, Tweedledee and Tweedledumbass here. I can't remember how they get their comeuppance.
Doesn't he kill them in the gym?
I think he gets one of them in the gym.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think he kills one, but I'm not too sure if he kills the other one. Because doesn't he get one? There's that moment earlier in the film when they're shaping the blades. Doesn't he get one of them with a blade?
Yeah, okay.
And I love all this hardware shit that's just hanging around, which I imagine it would be being in a home stadium like that. And I wonder whose idea it was to just have him go out on ice. Because it's probably, outside of the Penguin fight, probably one of the more memorable things about the movie was that he actually plays in the game that helps them win it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a subtle pan down to the uniform not being there. I'm like this a little bit.
It's meant to be impersonating the guy he insulted at the start. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think the jersey says Tolliver on it. He's taken his. There's times all through my life where I quote Van Damme in this moment here, and whenever I have to participate in group activities, I don't play nice with others. Not to say I'm not a guy that you can't get along with, but this moment here when he's watching the puck slowly skate up to him, Jesus Christ, stay down there. I'm like that. Like, not a day goes by in my life where I don't think that to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, feeling better. Then get the fuck in there. Yeah, that team spirit, man. Team spirit right there. See the red, white, and blue, stripes on everything and all of that. Is that because the VP is a guest at this, or do they wheel that out all the time?
Yeah, it's the coverage, the line markings. Yeah, they're on every arena, I believe. Yeah, because there's the way ice hockey works. Certain players or a certain number of players are only allowed in those grids at a time, and they've got this thing called an icing rule to stop. So just say you just can't slog it up one end of the hockey rink. It's called an icing rule. If you do that, it's called an icing, and I forget all the ins and outs of it, but they want to sort of promote like more attacking play and teamwork. So I believe only a certain number of players are allowed in like the middle section and the two either side of it and that kind of thing. It looks like a fantastic sport. I really enjoyed watching that game.
You're talking about the lining on the ice. I was talking about where the commentary box is. There's red, white, and blue like half circle flag kind of things laying down. They're not stars and stripes, but those colours are there. And I was just wondering, do they have those kind of decorative things come out when there is a political figure there or something, or if it's something that was always there? I'll see if I think it happens a bit later when he swings over to the box. You'll see what I'm talking about, and I wasn't too sure if that's just something they wheeled out because the VP just happens to be at this game, or what the go with it was.
Okay.
Or you know what, it could just be as simple as it was just what they decided to go with for the movie. It's one of those, it's just a movie answers. Look at it just shred the ice like that. Fucking hell, it must, I'm not that good on my feet when it comes to... I'm a good runner, I can tell you that now. I'm a good runner, but I don't know if I could handle skating or skateboarding or snowboarding or anything like that. Like when we were doing the Point Break talk, I'm like, I can't imagine, surfing. I don't think my ankles are really good enough to be doing something like that. And just that slow-mo graze on the ice just before there, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Now, this is a great scene, and this is my favourite piece of music in the whole movie as well. John Debney did the score for this, and this piece of music is called Seeing Tyler. I just love listening to it as the time ticks down. Yeah, it's really good part of the score. He's done a lot of movies, John Debney, and that piece of music there is one of his very best, I think.
I love the punch out. What the fuck are you doing? Yeah, well, he has to get sin bin because there's only 4 minutes left. He can't dick around anymore. So he he's got to get sin bin, so just punch him out. And what does the coach say? It's like $10,000 fine. I wonder if that's still the rule over there.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it.
If you flat out drop your hockey equipment, skate over to someone and punch him out, is it a 10 grand fine?
Well, it's Tolliver's fine because everyone thinks it's him.
Yeah, well, that's true as well. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really cool. And also, when he does the sign language of "I love you" to Tyler, you can still see the stamp there. I love how it's very consistent with that.
Yeah.
Like Emily says, "Now you won't be alone," and I believe she's already given one to Foss as well, which blows his cover later when he puts on the fake mustache. The stamp gives him away.
Yeah.
So, like, the stamp that's been this constant, ongoing thing, it's cool how it all sticks around like that. And I love that. How many did you find? And, like, 3 or 4 of them are complete duds, but I think the 5th one just blows up. And, so it's basically, here we go. Well, I mean, it's a film centered around hockey, so it's about goddamn time someone just got smacked over the head with a stick. So I'm glad that finally happened. Van Damme pulled the Rafiki and just bashed that guy over the head with one.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's just too tempting not to use. I never understood if it was an inside joke or not, but the line the commentator uses, "scratch my back with a hacksaw," I had a theory that because the stepfather says it while Tyler's practicing at the start of the film when
that's
McCord
true.
picks children up. Part of me, it makes me wonder, because they're real teams, I wonder if those two are real commentators.
I believe they are.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just an inside joke for them. Yeah, because the commentator says it, "scratch my back with a hacksaw."
And where are we in this? We're an hour and 20-something and some change into it. Only now has Van Damme wielded a gun for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, in the gym.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, because what do they call it? You got to get the pump. It's as satisfying to me as coming is. You got to lift a couple of weights.
I don't punk.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how. Yeah, because you've also got to remember is that McCord wouldn't know how to use a gun. So when he tries to just gun this bloke down just before it doesn't work, well, it's like Simon Gruber. Gotta take the safety catch off. Yeah, so we're about to tick over into sudden death. Now, I believe sudden death flat out ends as soon as just anyone scores.
I believe so, yeah, with extra time.
Yeah, I see what you mean just on the background of that shot there, the playboard with all the different circles and all of that. Yeah, I probably should. I wouldn't mind learning it. But yeah, it's kind of hard to actively follow if you live outside the US. Like, I'm sure some Australians do it and people in the UK do it and all of that, but like time zones and all this kind of thing, it is kind of a hard sport to actively follow if you're an Aussie.
Yeah, I did try around 2016. Although KO, with the advent of KO, it's a lot easier now, but you could get the NHL pass, but that's a pretty big plunge for something I might not enjoy. I might not take to it. But with KO, they do have the replays. In KO, there's a really good feature there. You can turn off spoilers. So you've got the replays of games, but they don't tell you who wins or loses. So, and the match I watched between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New Jersey Devils was only like a day or two ago. So I've got my settings set to no spoilers. And KO have everything. They've got all the big sports here and abroad. But I just sort of gave it a watch. Whereas and so that's probably the best bet for anyone living down under. Your best bet is probably KO. Just get a KO subscription.
Now the film is finally doing its namesake. I love how McCord, being just on the plexiglass there, looking at the countdown, was pretty much resigned to dying there. Like, there's no way out. He only got some of the bombs. Like, I'm just one guy. Like, he only got some of them and all of that, and then this happens, and this is kind of like his last beat. And I love how he goes up to the catwalk and just goes straight to the box, because there is no time for anything else, because anything could happen in the next couple of seconds.
Yeah, it's interesting how extra time works, because I know in the Super Bowl, like a month or so ago, that's not how their code worked. Because the game was level at the end of regular time, and points were scored. Um, I believe, although I could be misremembering it. Yeah, and I know the NRL has changed it as well. Now we get 5 minutes each way of dedicated extra time, and if the scores are still level, then we go into sudden death, where the next point wins. It's a bit more fairer, because it always bothered me. Because, like, there's a flaw with extra time. Like, if play restarts, like, a team could theoretically score on that play. It doesn't seem fair. Like, I believe in extra time, both teams should at least have possession of the ball.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's it's a little bit unfair that, like, play can just restart and a play can be scored straight away. It always didn't sit right with me, so I'm glad it's a bit fairer now, with dedicated extra time both ways.
What's that quote? What is it? Bookies don't bet the odds. They've got very good information.
Yeah, Bellamy.
So what is that? That's a 50 grand fine for making that insinuation. Fucking.
I believe, yeah, he copped a 50 grand fine.
50 grand. 50 grand for making that insinuation. Fucking hell.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, well, he's basically saying the results are fixed.
Yeah. Bookies don't play the odds. They've got very good information. Look, if you're gonna go out, that's how you go out, man. That's how you do it. Yeah, I love this. So go to the absolute highest point, and then just swing straight down there. I thought this was... See, this gave me kind of a few memory throwbacks to Commando, where he swings across the fucking shopping mall. So the fact that McCord just swings off one of the skylight things and lands in the box, I thought is brilliant.
Yeah.
What's that Waterboy quote? End of the season now, Brett. Can't hold anything back now.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah, end of the season, can't hold anything back.
Like, that's the funniest thing about that particular joke. Not I'm like scratch my back with a hacksaw, but the funniest thing about the end of the season one is it's literally the last game, and that's all the co-host says all through the last game. Like, he adds nothing of substance to what's going on in the field at all. Yeah, so this Protter. Yeah, so old mate who killed the chef's wife, the old broad at the start, he pulled out a law and shot down a helicopter. I'm trying to figure out if this is still him. I don't think it is. No, it's not. Because after shooting down the law, you pretty much never see him again. So, yeah, or maybe there might be I'll keep an eye out, but I'm certain he's like the one that got away. But I suppose killing, 30 bad guys in one day, like, that's enough. Like, what's this guy doing up on the skylight anyway? It doesn't matter. You got to give him... Yeah, I'll see these overview shots. I love it. And, like, the dish. Be fucking hilarious if he just fell onto the ice there, but no, he just skids right off the side of the dome. Yeah, and the hacker playing Doom there. I caught that the other night. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's playing Doom on his fucking Tough book or whatever it is. Alright, here we go. I wonder how they do things like that back then. Do you have to tap id Software on the shoulder these days and go, hey, can we show a quick little glimpse of your game in our movie? Or back then, did they just not give a fuck? Like, I can't help but think these days with corporate ownership over everything, you'd be stuck in like legal hell if you randomly did that in a film today without letting them know that you were.
Yeah, they probably had to get permission, but Doom was one of the games that really punched through into sort of mainstream. Even people who have never played video games or PC games have heard of Doom. It just had that appeal, and that notoriety because the violence in that, although it's pretty tame now, it was controversial at the time.
Yeah, so what the skylight, like the roof can open because of the fireworks display, is that right?
Yeah, retractable roofs. I think like a lot of stadiums and arenas now would have them. The retractable roof.
Yeah, I know a lot of pools have got it as well, like those massive, like Olympic indoor pool. Like I know a lot of them have got it.
Yeah.
And I love how shredded up the print is on the ice now. Like you can see it's all like flaked off and scraped away and all of that from the game.
Yeah.
And this is another trope that I really enjoy as well. The last modern film I can think of that did it was The Force Awakens with TR-8R getting the better of Finn. Just some random fuck stormtrooper, no-name hick getting the better of one of our main characters. I love how this no-name thug is just kicking the shit out of Van Damme and almost kills him. It's a trope that I wish would come back when just some random thug starts giving the hero so much trouble.
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of hoping the sequel trilogy would make that like a running gag with Finn. Every time Finn would have an awesome moment, a random stormtrooper would have a one-on-one scrape with him and trounce him again. It would be like this ongoing thing. Like, he's awesome at what he does, but just this one random no-name thug always got the better of him in a fight. Yeah, I love that beat there. And yeah, this is when I think the cat's out of the bag. Yeah, holy shit. Like, just have a body flat out fall into the arena. Yeah, this, yeah, awesome, this.
Oof.
Fucking, yeah, like that. And like I was thinking about this as well, like a lot of movies that had explosions of the 80s and 90s, like all of that blowing shit up would have been for real.
Yeah.
You know, like all of this. And then he's got the homemade cocktail here. And you can what really I think shows this its age is all the sponsorship around the building, like Coca-Cola and all that kind of thing. Like these days you'd see Xbox, PlayStation, 4X, Netflix. You'd see all those kind of logos, and if you watch Welcome to Sudden Death, maybe they do have a bit more up-to-date sponsors and all that kind of thing. But I love how like there's no Microsoft logo on anything in amongst this group, like of boards around the ice rink and all of that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the desperation of the final act of this. Just flat out throw a bomb at the box that the VP's in and just go into full fuck it mode. I think it's awesome when characters do this. Like, yeah, I mean, because at this point, I mean, it's fly or die, right?
Yeah, they're well and truly out of time.
And even like we do go into overtime, and I mean that in the sense that the game itself now is over, and we just get a quick little glimpse of Foss escaping there. But the action and all of that, even though things are starting to unwind a little bit, and Emily and McCord have been reunited again, and they go to pick up Tyler, it's still taking place at the stadium. The game has stopped, and the stakes are done and all of that, but our main villain hasn't been caught yet, and we haven't left the grounds yet.
Yeah, and that's a good shot there. It mirrors Van Damme and the vice president looking at each other, at the inverted image of at the start when Powers Boothe glares at the vice president. It's almost like a mirror image of a shot, except now he's meeting the hero, not the villain.
Yeah. Like the entire room just got shut up. You know the little TVs that have been all over the complex playing footage of the game, like it's an in-house CCTV feed of the footage. I love how there's nothing but coloured bars up on everything now. It's so cool. Yeah. Like the feed's been shut off. And so we see the fake mustache go on and all of that, but we haven't actually seen what he looks like yet, because I think he's wearing a wig as well. When he tries to make his break for it. Jesus. Yeah, and another reason why I think a lot of films with this kind of tone wouldn't be made today is because, and for good reason, I think as well, is that, like, you look at all of these 90s films and, like, public explosions with people and all of that, and it's grounded. There's no superheroes, there's no Iron Mans or aliens or anything like that. Like, just sheer panic and pandemonium in what is essentially a terrorist act. Like, there's a lot of filmmakers that steer clear of that kind of vibe. Like, you look at Die Hard with a Vengeance that opens up literally with a public bombing. You can't help but think there's no way in the world that would fly today. Having a film open up like that.
Yeah, a lot of it was all pre 9/11 and that kind of stuff. So it was more common in the 90s, and there wasn't like a huge sort of appetite afterwards for this kind of stuff. But it did, it wasn't completely absent. I know shows like 24. There were explosions and other things like that.
Yeah, I know some people would be saying things like The Dark Knight as well, but again, you're talking about a comic book movie. I know Nolan plays it very close to the chest and all of that, but a comic book movie nonetheless.
Yeah, it's a bit more stylized, that kind of violence.
And I love how Emily knows that it's Foss, that it's him that has that. Because he's the only other person she used the stamp on. She used it on the ticket tech guy at the start. She used it on him, used it on Darren, and she used it on Foss. So she's fully aware when she sees that stamp, Daddy, it's him, because that's the only other time she's used it, was on him.
Yeah, Foss just should have kept running. If he didn't stop to grab her, he would have got away.
He could have literally have walked out with the crowd, and then that would have been it. But he does have that line here of, I'm not going to kill you, I'd rather you live the rest of your life knowing you couldn't save your little girl. Like, for him, it's more about that, because the money's never going to happen now. Like, the hack, all of that stuff has stopped. So, like, whatever's been moved is going to get, laundered and all that kind of stuff. I suppose. Oh, no, there's that idiot there. That killed the old girl.
He does get his comeuppance.
Oh no, isn't he the? Yeah, all right. I'll have to pay attention here because I always thought he got away. Yeah, no, all right. Well, the entire helicopter fucking crashes. So if he's on that when it goes down, oh well, we look at it with a modern day lens. Well, we don't actually see him get killed in the explosion. Maybe he slithered off on the ice or something. I can't stand over analytical dipshits.
Somehow the man who killed the old lady returned.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah, Palpatine. Yeah. And it's literally the only question you've got to answer in 3 fucking hours, and it doesn't do it. Yeah, like, I don't mind films asking questions. It's answering them that seems to be the hard part. Like, what does Kevin Bacon say in Hollow Man? Sending animals to Never Never Land is easy. It's bringing them back that's the hard part. It's like asking questions in movies is easy. Writing satisfying answers to them is the hard part. God, I fucking love this. Yeah, get out of here. And I like the little ladder thing here. Very kind of Batman 89-esque, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I never... Yeah, they have to climb like a 50-foot rope ladder to get away.
You couldn't fly down just a little bit lower and pick him up? Like...
Yeah.
Nah, just chuck 50 meters of rope down at him, and what's that Van Damme thing? She taught me how to sing, she taught me how to dance, and I taught her how to climb a rope with a hunting knife between her teeth.
And, yeah, he's took a shot at his daughter. He's not letting that slide.
Wesley, fuck you. Yeah, alright, so that idiot, he literally... Yeah, there we go, he does get his comeuppance, alright. And I thought, what a punk way to go out. But hey, he had it coming. Well, everyone goes out like a punk, don't they? I thought this was very interesting, this. I wonder how this was done. Did they actually lower a chopper for real into the stadium, or was it miniatures or something?
I suspect it was a miniature, yeah.
Because that's kind of like a Dutch tilt thing there, isn't it? Like, that's not... Yeah. Well, yeah, and you can see a bit of CG and stuff like that there. Again, it's all good. It's just a movie, and it's fucking awesome. And you got to have the last death look as well.
He's fucked, this bloke.
And it makes me wonder, you know, if a bit of cliffhanger was added into this as well, because this is how Quaylen goes out on a helicopter on the inside of it. But I always liked, and that's one thing Foss should have said. He should have just grabbed McCord and said, "It's between you and me now, you piece of shit." I love that line so much from John Lithgow. Yeah, fucking just crash a helicopter. It literally ends on ice. And I suppose, you know, I did say earlier that a film, like, you get a lot of, you get the girl, and, you know, you get the couple days later, 4 hours till kickoff and all of that. I actually start to appreciate those earlier scenes now, rewatching it again, because only now are we on the outside with our hero now, and it's the closing moments of the film. Like, I love when you lock an audience in, you've got to lock them in. Like, you can't half-ass it, you know? It's like all this shit, like, with the Twin Peaks revival and all of that. Oh, well, there's all, like, it's set in fucking Las Vegas now. Well, hang on, the show's called Twin Peaks. It can't... Like, why the fuck is it set over there? Like, sudden death, it's a hockey game, and it should all take place in a stadium. Like, if it made a jump cut to the Pentagon, I would have been like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Nah, but no, awesome. I think it's one of Van Damme's better ones. Like, I know it's got a bit of a cult following now, and rightly so. So Emily, yeah, Whitney Wright, yeah, I was right. So there you go. Awesome. I loved it. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, and I enjoyed a lot of sort of Van Damme's 90s output. In a way, it was real sort of changing of the guard. Yeah, it was one of the last sort of very solid traditional action movies, because by the sort of late 90s they'd started to, you know, dry up, and it was more sort of science fiction and
your Jurassic Park and your Independence Days and all that kind of stuff started taking off.
Yeah, it was more special effects driven. So yeah, these guys who dominated the 80s and 90s, this was one of the last ones. They were in their twilight, they were in their Cretaceous period. So it was nice to kind of revisit Van Damme's work. And yeah, I really, like, I enjoy a lot of these kind of films. I really enjoyed his 90s output. I, you know, enjoy Street Fighter. I enjoy Time Cop. I enjoyed Hard Target, Death Warrant.
This is what I love the most about a lot of these kind of 80s nostalgic kind of reviewers and channels that consume a lot of this kind of action entertainment. They talk about, like, action stars of the 80s and Van Damme and all that kind of stuff, when the bulk of Van Damme's catalogue that he's most remembered for were all 90s productions, not so much 80s.
Yeah, because it was kind of the late 80s where Kickboxer and Cyborg, Wrong Bet, although I believe in the States it's known as Lionheart. It got a title change when it was released here.
Yeah. And
yeah, they're all great films as well. He had and they were commercially successful. Like, Street Fighter came out and it did well. But reviews were just rancid.
And I will still say this: Van Damme as Guile is awesome casting. And it really is.
It's terrific casting as a military hard ass. The Guile is.
Yeah, and people say, why did they choose him? Like, well, he fits the bill, doesn't he?
Yeah.
After a brutal stint in a Thai prison.
Yeah, and he's quite candid about it. He had some drug problems in the 90s. He had a cocaine addiction, and he's quite candid about how much damage he did to his body. It was really it was kind of sad to listen to him discuss that. He's quite candid about it, about if only he had been strong enough to resist those kind of vices, his career would have been in a lot better shape. He did go on to have some critical acclaim. He did that project, I think, in 2008 called JCVD, where he plays a fictional version of himself.
I'll give him this as a closing remark. I take Van Damme's health and physique now over most up and comers now.
Yeah, he certainly went to great lengths to sort of stay in shape and to get back in shape, and he did go on to be in one of the Expendables movies, so he was back on the big screen again, albeit kind of briefly. But it's a it was really fun to revisit a film when he was at his peak, sort of commercially and box office wise. So yeah, I enjoyed it.